This is the Hour of History podcast. Our world, anytime, anyplace. From the Hour of History studio in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, your Hour of History begins right now.
Hello and welcome to Hour of History. We're your hosts, Stephen Bauman
and Matthias Fueling. We are back in action. It's been a rough semester, a little bit of a crash course in time management, but we're making it happen.
And yes, we have some important history to talk about.
Yeah, so you might have heard there's a race happening right now for the governor in New York. Maybe this person you might know of, Andrew Cuomo and Cynthia Nixon, better known as Miranda.
Well, I don't know her that way. Where do you know her as Miranda?
I mean, you might have heard of a little show, Sex and the City. It was sort of like the, pop culture benchmark of the 2000s for a lot of people.
maybe we'll get our first hate mail for this episode. I made it through one half of one Sex and the City episode once, and I couldn't.
I remember only seeing it because it was on late at night on HBO, and I'd always stay up late at night on HBO to watch all the naughty shows, all the rated R movies as a teenager that my parents wouldn't let me watch. Like I'd stay up to watch Pulp Fiction, and sometimes Sex and the City would be on, and what else am I gonna do at 11 o'clock while I'm waiting for this movie? So I'd watch Sex and the City, and yeah, but I look back and I'm like, wow, that show was nothing but just Carrie, just where's the man for me? Where's the man for me?
So why would there's a whole box of issues there, but why should we even why are we talking about Sex and the City on Hour of History?
So Cynthia Nixon has, I think 3 weeks ago, a month ago, announced her campaign to run for governor against Cuomo, which is a big deal because how long has Cuomo been governor now?
2 terms.
2 terms. So he's been in there for a while. He comes from a very old line Democratic politics, family. His dad, I think, what was his dad's name? Mario Cuomo also was the governor back in the 70s?
Yeah.
So
he even had presidential ambitions.
Yeah, I know. So there's doesn't Andrew have some pseudo highfalutin ambition. So there's so it's a weird representation of kind of 2016 in miniature, where you have an established Democratic politician who's now being challenged by somebody on the left, right? Cynthia Nixon's running on a very, we might think quasi-socialist, Bernie-ish, platform, and really pushing against Cuomo. And the thing is, though, there's no Trump that could possibly destroy this situation.
The way I like to think of it is sort of round 2 New York City Hillary versus Bernie, because if you remember when Hillary and Bernie sort of butted heads in New York, Bernie was holding these big rallies in Washington Square, and there was a lot of arguments that it was these new glass buildings in Brooklyn that won New York for Hillary. It was a very close battle between sort of this establishment Democrat, Hillary Clinton, who had been, in the party. She had represented New York as a senator, versus this new progressive / populist Bernie Sanders. And Bernie lost New York.
He did lose New York, but then New York is Hillary Clinton's stomping grounds. She was a senator, wasn't she?
Absolutely. Which is interesting because Cuomo gets his start as the HUD under Bill Clinton.
Oh, wow.
So Cuomo is part of the Clinton family.
Yeah, it's part of that nexus. And so I think it's important, not just because it's it's just some random governorship, but I think it shows a real big kind of the power dynamic in the Democratic Party, right? It shows the fault lines very clearly. And ergo, it's important to care about what's happening in the Democratic Party if you care about America. So
it's one of our two parties.
Yeah. So I feel this election in many ways almost is functioning as a bellwether, an ideological bellwether for how the Democratic Party is going to function in the future, especially going into 2018 and it's with the primaries, and they're in the midterms, and then going into 2020. And also showing, how is the Democratic establishment gonna reconcile itself with and then how is also the resurgent, the left wing of the party going to reconcile itself with the establishment.
And for this reason, I find New York interesting. I also find New York interesting because I was a resident of New York for years before
this. You taught in Brooklyn, didn't you?
Yes, I taught in Brooklyn. I lived in Brooklyn. And in fact, last time Cuomo was up for re-election, it was Cuomo versus Zephyr Teachout, a professor at Fordham who's actually working on the Cynthia Nixon campaign. Now, Teachout, a little background here, Teachout was sort of this upstart who was challenging Cuomo, like playing a little more progressive than Cuomo. She was playing more like the Elizabeth Warren angle, where like, I'm a college professor, he's old-time politics.
Yeah, like I'm a smart, hip, like technocratic person.
I'm not afraid of suing the bad guys. And the problem with Teachout was she couldn't win New York City, so Cuomo still won New York City. She won the counties just above New York up to Albany, so like upstate from Yonkers to Albany. And then she also lost upstate New York, and upstate New Yorkers hate Cuomo. And so I and full disclosure, I voted for Teachout in the primary. I think Cuomo's
good man.
He's just your classic politician. He's born into the business sort of thing, and he's a politician's politician. This is what sort of worried me. So Cynthia Nixon announces her campaign. She says she's working with Zephyr Teachout, and all of her base is New York City. Like, she's not going to win over the people in Rochester and the people who hate Cuomo.
Yeah, it's also too, I think, because New York. Well, again, it's also like in miniature, like the political divide in the whole country, right? Where the urban-rural divide is just that's what's destroying America. But then if you look at New York, like the urban-rural divide is incredible. So it's also the problems of just the entire United States in miniature. And yeah, it's like you have all these people that hate the establishment upstate, but they don't want to necessarily go for the like what they would think of as like the hippy-dippy liberal candidate.
Absolutely.
And so what do you do about that?
and I couldn't see them like ever going for that sort of candidate, but they don't really like Cuomo, so some might possibly even go Republican, depending on who's put forth. But then there's also the issue of New York City. So like the people who are working at the banks and finance are Cuomo 100%. Yeah. So,
but then you have all the folks in like Bushwick and
well, so
your
there was a really interesting comment Nixon made. Like I've been following this with interest because it's sort of representative. But Nixon said Democrats need to be led by African Americans, and I thought, well, wait a second. You're what?
She's very white. Yeah, she is. It's weird too. Like the dynamic is like Cuomo. Yeah, obviously comes from like an Italian background. Comes from like that more old school like we came here as immigrants to New York and we like made our bones, and it's like almost like the Tammany Hall thing of like, and now we run the show.
Right.
And then Cynthia Nixon, right, super liberal, quasi socialist basically, but she's also like an elite Manhattanite. She stars in Sex and the City, which is also just all about like elite women in Manhattan. She's never been to upstate New York. I think she tweeted just a little while ago. She's like, went to upstate New York for the first time. It was great.
Yeah, and a lot of people called her out because she said upstate New York starts in Ithaca. And it's just like a weird comment.
So she has like all of these energies that seem populist, and she's using kind of that Bernie left-wing populism, but she's very bluntly not. She's out of touch.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Right?
And there's a couple things we should talk about. So one of the things I want to bring up is like rhetoric versus action. So one of the things two of the things we can bring up that she's been very strong on are education and the subway. Now, education, New York State spends more per student than any state in the union. So what are you criticizing?
Inequality in the education.
Exactly.
So that's why she's going for the base of like, we need to talk about discrimination, we need to talk about racism, we need to be equalizing this across all racial groups. And then, of course, but I feel so that's good for her. I'm the Nixon bro right now. And then as well, she's also talking about the subway, and like the subway in New York is crumbling. It's like in real time, exponentially. Like yesterday, did you read the news? Yesterday, It just the whole system collapsed.
Well, like, trust me, I used to ride the subway. It was hell. It was absolutely
hell. And it's funny because growing up out west, I always thought of New York as like, oh, it's such an advanced city. It has a big subway system. And then you come out and you're like, oh, it's dying because no one's funding it, because
but this is also my issue here. So the subway to fix would cost billions and billions of dollars, right? And everyone, so that's a popular thing, right? This is just like Trump. Trump said Newark sucks. He said we need to fix the highways, and so everyone's like, yeah, we do need infrastructure. Nothing's been done so far.
Well, because Trump will always say what people want to hear and never back it up.
But this is what Nixon is doing. What she said,
Nixon will back it up if she can get.
Well, but this is what she said about the subway. This was a red flag. She said, "We built the Erie Canal. We can fix the subways." It shows clear the Erie Canal is that was a marvel of technology. It was not about money. It was about engineering. How can we build?
Well, okay, that's fair, right? If you break down the actual budget of like infrastructure, that's where it gets hairy. But I think a lot of it, like
for Trump too.
Yeah. But think about all the arguments though that are made by like people on like the more libertarian side of things, where it's like we shouldn't invest in infrastructure because these big government projects, blah 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 blah. Or like it's not possible for us to build these things. And I think it's a popular left-wing thing to be like, look at these crazy huge infrastructure projects we did. If we have the will to do it, we can do it.
Right. And there's sort of like, this is the weird thing about New York too, is that there's like the weird element of de Blasio and New York City in there as well.
And Bloomberg.
Yeah.
And then Trump himself is from Queens.
Yeah. So basically if a New York politician is elected, the world loses.
Just destroy the city for its own for humanity's own good.
Our choices were between Clinton and Trump, right? Two New Yorkers.
Why New York?
Give us someone from Massachusetts.
I know. Philadelphia.
But anyway, so the
Rizzo versus Trump.
Since this Trump election, like, and this is what's weird too about Nixon and the populist movement is like, Trump is easy pickings. But it's not Trump you have to criticize. Like, de Blasio and Cuomo have been on an effort to out-progressive each other. Like,
Sort of, but I feel, though, if I look at Nixon, look, she's taken a very strong stand on saying we need to legalize weed. Like,
did you see Cuomo did the same thing?
Well, because it's great because she's totally pushing all of his buttons. Because she's running this insurgent campaign. She has name recognition. Mm-hmm. Right, she's indelibly associated with the city because of the show.
Yeah,
like I feel like they should make a personality test where your just personality is determined by your combination of like, was it Carrie, Miranda, Samantha, and I'm forgetting. Oh man,
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
On this.
Oh damn it.
You're on your own.
Yeah, but so she has that name recognition. She has still like this kind of sheen or shine of like virtuosity because she hasn't been in politics before. She seems like she's, kind of a straight and narrow person. No skeletons have come out of her closet yet. And then she's running like all these platforms that are super popular with people. Like improve infrastructure, legalize drugs, like fund, like work on our school funding. And it's just, in Cuomo you can see is like ashen-faced every time he has to talk about her. And then she's getting all these small donations. It's like the Bernie model of getting campaign donations, because Cuomo, of course, is going to get all the Wall Street big money donations in the party. But she's running, I think, what could arguably be a very successful insurgent campaign.
Okay, so let's say...
I mean, who cares? I mean, people upstate, sure, they might think, oh, she's just like some...
They're not going to vote for
They might, maybe, but I don't know. They might think like, oh, look at this dumb person from like Manhattan. But if they like her policies... No, why wouldn't they vote for her?
Here's what's going to happen. I think upstate New York is so anti-Nixon, so anti-Cuomo. They're going to put forth their own candidate.
You think like a right winger is going to come in and sweep all this?
Not a right winger. They're going to put forth their own Democratic candidate. The Cuomo will win again. And should there be Pataki did the same thing and won. And he won against Mario Cuomo, right?
But why? But so what's good about Cuomo though? This is what I don't get. Is everyone's just like, well, Nixon has all these problems. She's not going to win. But it's like, well, but what about Cuomo? What has he got going for him?
Well, okay, so it depends.
Like if Cuomo's that great, why isn't he just doing the policies that Nixon is running on that is giving her so much energy from the get-go?
Well, this is exactly what Cuomo's doing.
But he's only doing that because he's reacting to her.
No. If you go back, Cuomo made college free in CUNY and SUNY. So, people under a certain financial level get free City University, New York State University. Cuomo has been on... He started the sort of the research into legalizing weed for the whole state a year ago.
But like you don't need to do research. You can just do it.
No,
you don't need to hold like we need to do a big study. It's like people have written books on this topic. We know that legalization works. You don't need to do a study on it.
No,
anymore.
so this is a great example. So this is politics as usual. The side I'm sort of explaining, and Matthias is putting forth this new like just do it. But here's the thing: you can't just do it, and you know why? Because the New York House is Republican. The New York Senate might turn Republican. And do you think any Republican is going to work with quasi-socialist Cynthia Nixon? No way.
I mean, no,
It'll be a disaster.
Screw them, right? Like, I don't know.
Well, then nothing will get done. Cuomo has struggled to get, every year Cuomo struggles to get the spending bill, through the budget. And he's like tied to all these politicians. Like he's in the political game and he can barely get a budget passed. You throw someone up there who's never been in the game, I think it's going to be a disaster. And let me throw this.
But that's just an argument for stasis. Like that, like this is the problem where it's like, like Cuomo's trying to do this thing, but it's not working, so we can't disrupt the balance because it might be worse. But it's like, so really, all we're saying is like things are so bad. The only reason we should vote for this person is because it might potentially get worse. But things are already bad. Like, things are already, like, as bad as they could get. We have Trump in office. The country's, like, we have an opioid crisis that's, like, killing thousands of people every year.
But if you watch, like
our life expectancy has gone down 2 years in a row in the United States, and our infrastructure is crumbling. Like, let's just go for it is my point, because, like, what do we have to lose at this point?
Right.
We don't have anything to lose.
Both de Blasio and Cuomo have been criticizing Trump from day one. Cuomo was the number one critic on the handling of Puerto Rico. Every single day he made a tweet about Puerto Rico not having power. Every single day. I haven't heard Cynthia Nixon mention Puerto Rico. There's a huge population of Puerto Ricanos in New York, and that sort of thing is going to win Cuomo the election. If Cynthia Nixon can't tap into this sort of like, this divisive school situation or whatever, she's not going to win. I don't think her chances are very good anyway, but I worry about this sort of like, we need to change fast. The whole framework of the United States, the way our system works, is to change slow. If you want to change fast, join the Chinese Communist Party, where it's a dictatorship and they can pass any bill they want.
I mean, are you like? See, this is just like a BS like conservative argument of like, I mean, I just think that the problem is that Democrats are trying to play it safe, and that's what cost them the election to Trump, and that's why, like, Bernie Sanders, he went down, I think, to Mississippi. This was, like, a couple weeks ago. Did you read about this? Like,
no, tell me.
So a couple weeks ago, he goes down to Mississippi, he's giving this speech, and he comes out pretty, like, he gives some strong criticism of the Democratic Party. Like a classic Bernie thing, like attacking the Democrats from the left. And he says, look, Democrats are always up in arms right now about, like, how the election was stolen from us and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But he's like, but if you look at, like, and there's no self-interrogation of, like, what have we done wrong?
Right.
And what can we do better? And
wasn't Clinton's book called what?
Yeah, but so Bernie, like, had this line where he said, we elected Obama, and he was a really charismatic, candidate, but look at how many seats we've lost under Obama. And, like he said, like, basically, yeah, we elected Obama, and then Democrats have, like, lost, like, positions across the board. And he was saying, like, don't let the fact that you elected Obama somehow make you think that Democrats have been doing good the last 10 years. He's trying to say we've actually done terrible. And so I think he was trying to push against this, like, don't be seduced by the self-congratulatory fact that so many Democrats have that, oh, we elected, Barack Obama, so we're doing awesome. It's like, well, then why have Democrats lost? Like, how many seats? like state, county, federal level? It's been a bloodbath.
But see, what people are kind of like taking for granted is that Trump's in office right now. Trump is gonna explode at some point. We don't know when it's going to be, but like he's not gonna last. Like, so yes, Trump won the election and he's doing all kinds of things. But is that really the game the Democratic Party wants to play? Like, this is a very short game, right?
Well, but the thing is, again, I would say, but this is also like Obama's like, we gotta stay middle of the road and like be conciliatory. Look what's happened. Like, it's been a wipeout of Democrats across the board. Trump is in office, and like his legacy is gonna get wiped out. Like, it's gonna be destroyed.
Right.
And So what did that gain? And you're saying like, oh, it's a short-term thing. Sure, right? You don't want to blow up your house to kill like a rat infestation or something. You want to somehow fix, you want to fix the problem while retaining the integrity of the state, right? I know there's that argument you're making where it's like if Democrats go too far left, they go too extreme, they play it too fast and loose, if they start playing fire with fire, they go down to the debasing level of Trump or whatnot and the right wing, that they're going to end up blowing up the house. Fair. But I would also say it's like, well, if you don't do anything, the house is going to collapse anyways because you're not doing anything to fix the infestation.
Well, okay. So here's my...
Right? Because, like, look at, like, Mitch McConnell and the Republicans have won by being so intransigent, and they played hardball. And I think, personally, it's time for the Democrats to start playing left-wing hardball. And there's populist energy. If you look at the populist energy Bernie had... It was wasted. The Democratic Party wasted that energy.
The populist energy fades when you don't get anything done. Let me take.
But let's then take over state houses. Like, the problem is also the way the Democrats fund, right? The Democrats, like the DCCC, D666 Mafia, which I'm stealing from Chapo Trap House. I think it's hilarious, that phrase. Right? Like, they have such a centralized power over who gets funding, who doesn't, who are they going to help, who are they not going to help. And it's just turned the party into this like total like incestuous Tammany Hall thing where like Cuomo, where it's like it's dynastic, right? He knows the Clintons know everybody. His dad was also governor for 3 terms. And so it's just become this like thing where it's like this just love fest where you just get in with like the party and you're with them forever, and then you can never criticize the party because then you'll never get any funding. And so it just becomes stagnant. So Cuomo can always go out there and say like, I'm actually progressive and claim blah, 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 and then nothing happens because he's also not willing to play hardball with the Republicans.
Okay, but first of all, things have happened, and America is dynastic. You can look at the Bushes, the Clintons, whatever.
But that's bad. Like, it's not.
Was it bad when Roosevelt was there for 3 terms?
I mean, there's a reason we passed the amendment to stop people from getting over 2 terms. Like, we recognized that in principle. Sure, we've always had dynasties, but that doesn't mean dynasties are good. The norm is not good.
Well, I don't know. Sometimes the norm is good.
No.
Let's take California as an example. Okay, California elects... California is sort of this, like, a good example like New York of what's going to happen in the world. California experimented with this guy, this actor who had no experience, Ronald Reagan, eventually became president. California also experimented with another actor. After Gray Davis had been governor for how many years, California recalled him and put Schwarzenegger in Sacramento. And California thought, okay, Schwarzenegger, this guy who's going to flip politics upside down, he doesn't have experience, but he's going to lead California. Schwarzenegger couldn't get anything done. And soon the California establishment, he destroyed the Republican Party in California, basically, because he could get nothing done. And so what happened? The California goes back to Jerry Brown, who he'd been one of the youngest California governors. Now he's one of the oldest California governors. You know why? Because California was tired of Schwarzenegger, an actor, not being able to do anything. They would rather have an old Democrat who had, who might not do a whole lot, but
you also look at but also it's because the Democrats in California, for all of their quote unquote liberal social policies, have basically like recreated like feudalism, man. like come on, like California is one of the most unequal states in the country,
and they have
you look at their tax policy, you look at like their zoning laws, you look at like just across the board, the wealth distribution is horrible. And this is why the problem with the Democratic Party is it's like made this devil's bargain of like, we are nominally going to support left wing, aka like liberal, because the United States is like political categories are all screwed up, right? We're going to support these like liberal social policies, but those social policies are only allowed to pass through the devil's bargain of then allowing Republicans or making an alliance with Republicans to get votes that will enact in like horrible economic policies. This is why we have gay marriage, but inequality is like at the highest it's ever been in the country.
Okay, so a couple things. First of all, I should point out California senators are both New Yorkers, Boxer and Feinstein. Not a recipe for success.
The New Yorkers.
New Yorkers, get out of here. Second, get out of here.
Ground zero. Ground zero of just political chaos. Oh, I know. I didn't mean it that way. Oh, no.
Strike that from the
record. Oh, that's a terrible joke.
Anyway, it wasn't a joke. He didn't mean it. But on top of that, we also have this sort of... I can't think. We also have... so the Republican Party was... decimated in California, right? It never really recovered. So the opposition was essentially destroyed. What happens is if you don't have these like boring establishment parties, they can't continue. What is the Republican Party going to look like after Trump either A, dies or B, leaves?
But I think that's the point, though, is that all of the parties are ossified and crumbling. The Republican Party could not have had Trump basically turn into a personality cult in a year if it wasn't incredibly weak.
Right.
Like, I think Trump... Like, it's funny how people say the Republicans are powerful. It's like, no, the party is so ossified. It's so party line that they have no dynamism. They have no people going into it. And so it crumbled under an attack by Trump. And then the Democrats also are ossified. I mean, I get in debates with this all the time with, like, another friend of mine. But, like... We have a gerontocracy right now in the United States. Like, during the Soviet Union, most of the smart opinion on the Soviet Union now, looking back at like the Brezhnev era, is like the problem is that they had too many old people at the top, and then they had a problem and a crisis of like legitimacy and succession because then they all died. And that's how Gorbachev got into power, just because he was the youngest guy. They had no dynamism. The thing, it just ossified and collapsed. And that's what's happening with our party system. All of our major leaders in both parties are in their 70s or their 80s. All of them are going to be dead in 10 to 15 years. All of them. So it's crazy to me. Now people are like, oh, well, Paul Ryan's retiring, so Nancy Pelosi. And it's like, no, man, she could die tomorrow. Like, why put old people into power when they're going to be dead in just a few years, and then we're just going to have a legitimacy crisis in who's going to come to power?
Well, because our country's built on money, and they have a lot of money.
This is why you need to get rid of money, man. This is why Citizens United was the worst decision ever.
Well, so then let me ask you this.
We need to get big money out of the politics.
Were it not for money, would this no experience Cynthia Nixon be in running for governor?
Well, she's independently wealthy, but also because she was an actress.
Okay.
But also, she's not taking big money donations. She's doing small.
Because she's rich.
But fair. But look, man, but she's doing it the Bernie model.
Brooklyn College alumni Bernie Sanders himself had been a senator for how many years?
For decades.
I know, that's a lot of money.
But he had always, yeah, it's true, but he had always been on the outskirts, right? I mean, he was an independent for a long time.
Still making $250,000 a year.
Well, then the argument should be that we should make sure that they don't get paid that much. I'm totally in favor of lowering how much senators and Congress people get paid. I'm totally in favor.
I mean, but they could get paid. Trump gets paid nothing, right? He's getting kickbacks.
Well, I mean, because the Russians are monitoring him,
Yeah, no, I know.
I think it's just a problem is that the argument, well, we just need to go with Cuomo because I feel like the only good thing about Cuomo is that he's not a Republican, right? That seems to me to be the bottom line people make is if we don't support him, we're going to get a Republican. Yeah. But I'm just but that's not good enough anymore.
No. Well, it's certainly not good. And I apologize if you live in New York State. I mean, Cuomo basically he was the architect of the subprime mortgage fiasco.
Yeah, and that's where it's that's where you're saying. So this is where when you say oh, he's a progressive. No, he's not. He's not a progressive because he backs these crazy economic policies. So many Democrats have done the song and dance of I support gay marriage. Ergo, you can't criticize me on anything I do because I support,
This is Cynthia Nixon.
Yeah. No, she's not doing that. She's also doing more economic platforms. She's doing the more dynamic thing of saying, let's support these people, but let's also, get some real-world economic policies enacted.
I don't know. I haven't seen any economic policies from her. I've seen a lot of words, but no policies suggested.
Dude, legalize weed, man. Legalize drugs, right? That's a great economic policy.
And that will not be a political solution for any of these parties. And the bigger issue that we have to get to is people are mad. So we don't have Cuomo, right? So if we're New Yorkers and I've never talked to a New Yorker who said, I like Cuomo.
Exactly.
I also haven't talked to a New Yorker who said, Oh, Cynthia Nixon. She's going to change our state.
I mean, I'm sure if you go to Bushwick.
No. Oh, come on.
Oh, yeah, man. Totally.
You can find anything in Bushwick.
Yeah. I think Nixon is tapping into the same energy and basically the same demographic that Bernie was.
Right.
And I think the problem with the Democrats is they need to tap into that demographic because Bernie had a ton of energy. He had so much populist energy going for him. And Democrats, all they've done is criticize him by saying, oh, he doesn't have solidarity with the party. He criticized Hillary Clinton. How dare he? He criticized Obama. How dare he? And they don't pay attention to like what was driving his popularity in the first place.
Absolutely. And that's a problem with the party. But can energy beat money is my question for you.
I think it has. Well, I believe it can, or at least we should try and help energy beat money. Because if we don't, we're just going to end up in like an oligarchy. Right? Well, I guess we already are, but like we're going to end up in a situation where it's just going to be ultra rich family clans, which like Clinton and Cuomo.
Welcome to America.
I know, but like we need to change it. Otherwise, we're like maybe it's always been cases of rich people running things, sure, but it's getting exasperated and worse. Where there's no pretense anymore. There's no more welfare state. It's all being destroyed. Where it's just going to be power competitions between the top 1% political dynasties, these like oligarchical political clans that at the end of the day have more in common with each other than difference because they're all agreed on maintaining economic policies to ensure that they keep making money.
Right. But this is where Trump was victorious.
And Trump, the thing too is, again, I think Democrats are ignoring, how did Trump get all these people to vote for him? Regardless of all kinds of shady Russian stuff, regardless of the Electoral College being screwed up. So yeah, Hillary got more votes. But you still have to pay attention, like tens of millions of people voted for this guy.
Right. And
this is where I would sort of dissonantly say, you can't totally reduce it to like, they're all just evil, racist white people. Sure, plenty of those voters were. But that's not the be-all, end-all of his energy. A lot of it was he was proposing things that people want. Like, things that really aren't that different from maybe stuff that Bernie was. It's like, yeah, let's get big money out of politics. Even though he's like the worst person to advocate for all these things. He's never going to actually follow through on that. But like, yeah, there is a swamp in Washington.
Which is why...
Yeah, we do need to invest in our infrastructure. Maybe liberal capitalist free trade isn't everything it's cracked up to be, but he's some of his policies I look at and I'm like, sure, but he's like the worst possible individual because he's just cynically using those to like boost himself as an oligarch.
Well, this is sort of the place that the Italians have found themselves in now. They don't have a government. They're still trying to form a government, but they have the Five Star Party, which is sort of the left wing talking to the Lega Nord, which is a right wing populist. So it's almost like it's a more exaggerated version of Trump and Bernie, but they're thinking of forming a government together.
Well, because if like mainstream self-described liberal parties can't get things done, if they can't actually pass real economic policies, which are the purpose of a nation state, which is to ensure rights for your citizens, if a liberal party can't do that, then yeah, right-wing and left-wing parties are eventually going to get fed up with it. It's terrifying because that could lead to fascism, but it's understandable because liberal politicians, or like what we might think of globally as central politicians, aren't doing anything because they're being corrupted by money and their own stagnation.
Right, but this is exactly the problem with the world is this is how the system is set up. That's why, like, so we go back, we're so entrenched in this system. This is, this has,
it doesn't have to be that way.
It has its roots in empire, and
Well, sure, but like there was a moment after World War II when there was like a liberal democratic consensus, and there was like institutions were built.
Yeah, when Africa was still all colonized, China was not yet developed, India was still just getting its independence. Now that we have the mass population, India and China, 3 billion people, they lead the world now. And we have to come to terms with that. So I think there might be a radical reimagining of our systems. That's the only thing that's going to work. And people are going to have to, and so I think one of the biggest problems is people are angry because people can't live the way people were promised to live. So
there's money for it, though. We have the money. How much money is in tax havens? How much money is sconced away in like dark money pockets like Monseca Fesco, or however you pronounce it,
whatever,
in Panama,
yeah.
Which is only one tax. Like there's tens of trillions of dollars that are basically hidden away by the ultra rich. And also our beloved Chinese, like, Communist Party elite. Like, they don't give a shit about, like, the Chinese people. Like...
No, well, there's over 800 billionaires in China. Just take that into your brain for a second.
800 billionaires, yeah. But billionaires have more solidarity with other billionaires.
Absolutely, but that's what I'm saying. So it's going to be
like you're saying, like, oh, people need to say, like, they need to just, like, bite the austerity bullet, but it's like, no, they don't, because we have the money. The problem is not the money. The problem is not the resources. The problem is the political system that distributes those resources.
Well, don't misunderstand me. I think people need to start acting differently. We have to really consider the way that we consume.
Oh yeah,
I don't hear. This is what alarms me about both Cuomo's and Nixon's. None of them are bringing to the table, like...
then New York's going to be underwater in 50 years.
New York's going to be underwater. Why do people keep moving to New York? Why? No one's talked about the Russians buying up Manhattan.
Or the Chinese buying up California.
Los Angeles. Yeah. No, and no one's afraid. Everyone is afraid. Bernie didn't even talk about those kind of things because it's suicide.
Well, you're seen as racist, but also... I mean, Trump maybe vaguely by talking about like trade policies, but he's like I said, that's the most infuriating thing about Trump is some of his policies or some of the things he claims to support. I'm actually okay with. It's just that he's insane, and it's just other oligarchs utilizing him to seduce people.
Right, but so that's what I'm kind of after is like. There are real problems for the whole Earth. Like, if you look at things like the Paris Agreement and pollution, like, it took the world so long to get India and China on board with pollution. So long, because they were saying, the whole argument, look, during colonial times, you were creating all the pollution, give us a chance to do it. And then they realized, wow, it sucks to live in a place where the air is black.
Yeah.
And then so they are leading, and now China and India are leading the anti-pollution movement, and now we're not on board.
But so what's your critique?
So what I'm saying is we have to reimagine society. Like, we're not thinking even on the right level. Like, we need to. So I lost the little tiny thing that goes on the earbud. The little ear wrapper that goes on the. So it's central to putting the earbud. The little plastic thing that goes on your.
I mean, there is like a plastic trash heap 3 times the size of France, swirling around the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
Exactly.
But this is again. We can do this. We just need to need to destroy the structures that are creating inequality. We need to loosen up that money, get it flowing back into nation states, maybe promote sovereignty for nation states so they can actually confront their own problems. We need to then start radically changing our consumption. Ergo, let's invest massively in solar energy and wind power and in generating power from like water and like hydrology. And let's get renewable energy booming. Let's get ourselves off fossil fuels.
But now you're starting to sound like a centrist.
That's not a centrist policy.
It kind of is, though.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
That's not a centrist policy, man.
Yeah.
Nobody, no centrist politician is saying that.
Well, they're saying, like, the slow rollout versus...
That's not a slow rollout. I'm saying we need to do this, like...
And then what
ASAP.
do you do with the coal workers in West Virginia?
Well, dude, if you create enough revenue through renewable energy, universal basic income, man. You can do it. There's enough money to make it happen. There's more than enough money to ensure food and shelter, and not just like we're not talking even just baseline. There's enough money out there to ensure a good life for everybody on the planet.
But what we
can invest in technologies that can make life better for everybody. We have the power. We have the money.
I know, but what you're suggesting is sharing, which we've, as humans, as a species, have found enormously difficult to do.
But I don't buy the idea that quote-unquote human nature will always preclude against these political solutions that are going to be based on more egalitarian measures.
Well, I'm not saying human nature. I'm just saying people with money are... I was always anti-first class until I got upgraded, and then I said, screw the people in coach.
See, this is where we're radical. Let's just... get rid of first class on planes altogether.
What?
Yeah.
Have you ridden in first class?
No, I don't really.
That's why you want to get rid of it.
I don't even want to be in first class.
Let's put you, Matthias, let's put you on first class transatlantic one flight, and let's see what you say about get rid of first class.
Or maybe we should nationalize our airlines again, so we don't have these like airlines treating their customers like cattle.
And then we wouldn't be able, guys like you and I wouldn't be able to fly cross country if airlines were nationalized.
I mean, I can't afford to fly cross country right now anyway.
Oh, come on,
Steve.
Anyone can pay $200 on Spirit Airlines.
It's not.
Great deals.
It's not $200 to go across the country.
It is. I've done it before on Spirit Airlines. Philly to LA nonstop.
Because you're going to LA. Imagine $200 to try and go to... You can't do that to go to Boise. Again, it's urbanization, man. It's the centralization of politics around cities. Sure, to LA, but what about all the people that don't live in LA?
Well, this is the problem.
What about them?
In our modern world, this is what Yuval Harari has called the useless class.
Yeah, because that's what's happening. This is like what Silicon Valley, right?
Yeah.
We can see in San Francisco the dystopian future right now. Mm-hmm. Is that you're going to have the ultra wealthy who have all the technology, and they will have generated the economy so much and automated it so much and digitized the economy so much that there won't be jobs for anybody. But they're never going to create an economic system that ensures then that some kind of capital will be guaranteed to everybody. So you'll just have the ultra wealthy hanging out in their mansions, and then everyone's going to be homeless in the street because they don't have any of it. Right. It's just going to be feudalism all over again. Right. Even worse than feudalism, because there's going to be no social contract.
Yeah, but since our politicians, if anyone watched Facebook and Zuckerberg's questioning, our politicians don't understand how technology...
Because they're all in their 70s and 80s. Because they're all... Because we live in a gerontocracy, Steve. This is like... And again, this is why we can debate like these huge global earth-shattering problems. But again, it goes back to... That's why you vote for Nixon and not Cuomo. Because Cuomo just represents the same repetition of this old, staid, dynastic system in the Democratic Party that actually isn't going to change anything and demonstratively hasn't changed anything.
Answer me this.
If we're desperate for stuff, I'd rather go down voting for somebody who actually is proposing real changes and who's actually saying, let's just do the damn thing and not have a committee for a year to decide on it.
In your study of history, what's gone better? Radical changes or stability?
I mean... I think that's a false dichotomy because so-called countries that always focused on stability collapsed.
After a long time.
We've tried to say that. We've been around for a long time. I think that you do need moments where you do need to do radical change or the system is going to collapse. I think we're in that moment. If we don't do something now, the argument of stability is just an argument for, just keep biting the bullet. And it's an argument that you can't imagine a better future. So just accept it.
Well, but here's the thing. Things are changing so fast that any sort of planning,
Well, but the thing is, what's radical about legalizing drugs?
Well, but
let's just legalize.
Here's what's radical. She's not going to be able to pass that in a Republican-controlled House.
This is why we need... But,
So what? So not only would we need Cynthia Nixon, we would need a radical reimagining of how New York politics works.
Just go out among the people. Voting for legalizing at least weed is insanely popular across the board. Regardless of political affiliation, numerous studies have shown that a vast majority of the American population is totally on board with legalizing weed or at the very least decriminalizing it.
Okay,
so why don't we go to the people and talk to them and rather than doing this stupid this is a Republican district, so we're not going to talk to them because they'll never vote for us. Why don't we just go as say a Democrat, just be here's my position. And I'm going to do this policy. Do you support this policy or not?
And then, so New York, like Massachusetts, then we legalizes weed, and it'll take them 4 or 5 years to figure out how to tax weed companies. Meanwhile,
no, it won't. You just look at what's happening in California.
It's taken forever.
Or what's happening in Colorado. Just look at policies that have worked in other places.
So what about Colorado? Yeah, great. Everyone in Colorado is having a good time. Someone on the Rockies accidentally made the front page of their opening day pamphlet, the Phillies stadium. So someone's having fun in Colorado. But the problem with that is so then we get all our weed from where? The cartels in Mexico. So the people in Mexico suffer because of this giant drug business so Americans can get high? That's not cool.
No. That's what's happening now. If we legalize weed, we grow it ourselves, and then we don't have to have a drug trade.
You think we're going to be self-sufficient in weed growing? Not the way people consume it here. I
think so. Yeah, man.
No
totally
way.
Could be.
No
and
way.
then as well.
Are we self-sufficient in anything?
No, because we've gotten so complacent. I'm down for like reasserting American self-sufficiency in terms of like our consumption. I'm totally on board with that.
Well, see, I think that's where the change has to be, not with legalization or other
things. But I would say is like you have to, because look at like policies that have affected black people in this country. They have been the number one victims of the drug war, right? Disproportionate like incarceration out the wazoo, the number one American victims, because Afghans, we can talk about... but that's all of it because it's illegal. All the problems you're talking about, drugs, are only the problem because it's illegal in the first place. Make it legal, and then you can actually address these problems head on. If you always keep these substances illegal, the problems will always be in the black market, and you can never solve it. You can never actually do anything about it.
If one thing we've learned, there's always going to be a black market.
But for what?
So you legalize every behavior?
I'm maybe more kind of like a libertarian in that sense. Not so much in like the stupid like Coke brand, which is just an argument for oligarchy, but in terms of like, look, let's legalize most drugs, let's legalize prostitution, let's legalize gambling. And I think that would alleviate a lot of problems.
And are we going to be self-sufficient in prostitutes as well, or are those going to be imported from other countries?
I think we can be self-sufficient, or we can just make laws that say like, we're not going to allow sex trafficking.
This is what's the problem with the economy.
The problem is you're saying is just like, well, we shouldn't allow any of the have no policy because people will always do bad things.
What I'm saying
I'm not saying that these policies will get rid of all problems, but they'll get rid of big things that are associated with these problems.
What I'm saying is that a lot of these policies are quick fixes for the United States, but then once the issue is globally exported, we have more
Well, then
problems.
The United States should advocate for legalizing drugs, or at least weed, across NAFTA, across North America, across South America. Let's do it. Let's talk to other countries.
Yeah.
And let's start helping. Like you're saying, like, oh, it's going to hurt the Mexicans. Yes, it is. But let's then do something to try and invest in Mexico.
Right.
If the cartels don't have their economic base,
where are they going to work?
Well, then we can try. I don't know what's going to happen to them.
Yeah.
But we can actually start to make policies that undermine their power. Undermine their economic power.
No. I think a lot of your... No, I agree with you.
And then we can maybe help to invest in Mexico to help Mexico become more stable, and so then you don't have people basically fleeing the country to the U.S. for a better economic future.
I know, and while admirable and sensible and everything you say makes sense, nothing in history has taught us that America would ever help Mexico.
But see, I don't give a shit about about history at this point, right? Even though we're the hour of history, I'm saying, Steve, you're making history sound like this sort of inevitability thing, right? What's happened before inevitably means that we have to take that into account when we look in the future. I'm looking at history as the history, to me, shows that things are spontaneous. There is a kind of energy. Things can happen that you don't expect. You can actually change things. History shows you that there's a radical kind of agency and contingency. To my mind, sure, we've always treated Mexico horribly. Always. Always, from the beginning. But guess what? It doesn't have to be that way, right? Just because history has shown that we always have doesn't mean that we always will.
Okay. I agree. No, I think it's a hopeful message, and I hope our listeners pick up on it.
Yeah, this is why I'm more on the side of Nixon. Just more from I'm bringing it back, man. It's always coming back. It's because the energy, right? Sure, maybe she's a quixotic candidate. Sure, maybe she's not perfect. Sure, she's an elite Manhattanite. But at least she's saying some more dynamic positions. At least she's talking about these issues in a way that maybe Cuomo is well, I made a commission to study this issue. It's no, she's actually just coming out and saying let's just do it. Let's just legalize it.
Cuomo has taught us anything, it's that politicians can say whatever they want. They're going to do something else.
But that's why Cuomo sucks. Yes. That's why you shouldn't vote for him.
That's why all politicians.
But this is why you're basically saying they all suck, so just vote for the same sucky person.
No, I say the change has to happen from the person.
Who would you vote for?
I say you each have to make a conscious effort.
Who would you vote for if you were in New York?
If I was in New York, I don't know. I would look for another candidate.
Really?
Yeah. No, I love the disrupt vote.
You'd vote for? Did you vote for Jill Stein? No. You're making an argument for Jill Stein right there.
Okay, yeah. Everyone who votes the disrupt vote is irrelevant until we lose Hillary Clinton the election, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so I think we've reached no.
Which I think was like sort of a point of like, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
So but then that's a point for stability and centrism.
Yeah, which is also why Hillary sucked. But she sucked less. That's why that 2016 will be endlessly legislated. Because let's be honest, they both were crappy candidates. Like, I hate the Clinton fandom is so god awfully annoying. It's just that Trump is worse. Trump is worse, but that doesn't mean that she's good.
Can we let's agree on this, Matthias?
That's why I voted for her in the presidential election, because she's just better than Trump. That's a low bar to clear, because she represented the status quo. But the status quo in America is horrible. It's horrible.
It's horrible for whom?
It's horrible for black people. It's horrible for queer people. It's horrible for poor people. And increasingly, it's horrible for everyone who's not part of like the top 10 or 20% wealth bracket. It's horrible for all of the people around the world who've been invaded by us. It's horrible for people in the Middle East.
See, I don't buy into this Jeremiads. These are the worst. Let's
shut down some of our bases. Why do we have dozens of military bases? Let's shut them down.
These are...
We spend half our tax dollars on the military. What's up with that?
These are some of the greatest times for humanity. These are some of the best times. Some of the times in which people have the most opportunities. Like, I don't buy that it's the worst times. I never...
It's not the worst time.
Those arguments.
It's not the worst time, but if we don't do something, it's going to get rapidly bad for a lot of people. The problem, right, so okay, sure. There's all these theorists that say actually global poverty is like the lowest it's ever been. Sure, but the way they're measuring global poverty, it's like such a low baseline to clear. It's like, okay, sure, like these people aren't like starving and don't have smallpox. Okay, that's great.
Yes.
And I know, okay, I don't want to sound like Blythe about it or something. Like, that is demonstrably awesome. Right? That is demonstrably an amazing thing that humanity has accomplished. I think the problem what's happening though is we're like measuring sort of equality downwards, right? Where we're pushing the bar ever lower to where the point where we'll just point to like people in America and we'll say, well, at least you're not starving, so how dare you complain about inequality? And then it's also, how much upward mobility are these people who now are like have some, like someone in like India, right? Where we're seeing massive cuts in poverty. So someone who's no longer absolutely impoverished in India. How much mobility are they going to have in the future? I think what America is showing is that you can hit a certain baseline of equality and then it will never change, right? Then you'll just have everyone be squashed down to this bare level of existence where, sure, maybe we'll have a future where there is like where no one is any more in quote unquote absolute poverty, but that just means we're all going to be eating like beans and like living in like tiny hovels or something. Like, sure, we're not starving and we're not going to be worrying about the Black Plague. But then we'll have like this tiny percentage of people living in like space mansions or something. Like that's the future. Like, so the way, if we talk about inequality the way you do, if we talk about it as like, well, global poverty is the lowest it's ever been, so ergo we live in the greatest time in history. It's like, sure, but only if you're looking at it through this lens of like, well, what about the future? What's going to happen to upward mobility? What's going to happen to all this wealth that's being generated?
But see,
poverty could be even less if you freed up all the capital that's in these tax havens.
But see, I think you're also measuring human beings entirely wrong, and this is part of the problem. Is you're saying in the future we just need to reimagine how wealth is distributed, and then things will be better. But that's also not the case. The case has never been wealth. And this is what Americans should understand more than ever. We're better off than anyone else in the world, and yet we have people who are willingly addicted,
No. We have one of the worst levels of inequality in the world.
No. We're still,
we are the wealthiest country, but we have one of the worst inequality divides in the world.
But still, if you're born in one of the poorest families in the United States, you're a billion times off better than if you're born one of the poorest families in India and China, which more likely more people are born in India and China.
But that's assuming it's going to stay static.
Let me finish.
Things are getting worse in America.
Let me finish.
Exponentially.
Your focus again is totally on finance, totally on money, and this is on consumption. Because
money can get you things.
No. But this is not the point of humanity. And so we've lost touch with actually how people are happy. That's the problem. Bhutan is the kingdom that's always saying, you're always measuring GNP, gross national product. We measure gross national happiness.
Sure. I'm sure. Like, that's material things can't totally buy you happiness, but like, what's your vision? You're just like be satisfied with like our healthcare system is being gutted, right? Like,
why? Because we let things like chips and beer.
So,
why are chips and beer sold? Both kill us indefinitely.
Yeah, but
they
also
don't make us happier.
Yeah, but you're sort of making this argument of like, I'm not talking about chips and beer. I'm saying that like
my argument's more radical.
I'm saying you should be able to eat as much chips and beer as you want, and when you get sick, you still should have a right to go to the hospital and be treated and not go into bankruptcy.
Nonsense. We shouldn't let people eat chips and beer.
No, I think you should. I think we should.
Absolutely not.
I mean, I personally won't, but I think people should. We have the money to guarantee people free healthcare.
See, this is the problem. Money to do this is the problem with our. This is the.
You're making an argument of like make sure that everyone's just like a Buddhist monk who's happy in like their cell. Maybe they're like maybe that's a lot of people. Maybe that's some people's version of happiness. But like you can't just tell people like don't complain about your material conditions because money will never buy you happiness.
But this is my big problem with
because how do you measure happiness? What makes people happy? And also, what do you mean by material stuff? Right? Like. And it's not just like you're making this case of like, well, it's always on the individual, and I do believe like personal responsibility plays a big part. But then look at what these huge corporations are doing. Think about the advertising. Think about food deserts in big cities. Think about how big pharma has pushed these like opioids on millions of people.
I agree with you. I agree with you entirely. But I think as long as we're transfixed,
and India is not always going to stay the same. What happens if you start getting major oligarchs, major pharmaceutical companies pushing opioids in India?
Yeah, I mean the opium wars in China, it's already been done. But okay, when most of China was addicted to opioids, but not in the pharmaceutical term, but freaking opium. But let's take a step back for a second and think the way we're imagining this around finance, around our well-being, having the ability to consume as much or whatever we want and be fixed with it once we destroy our own bodies. We need to teach people how to take care of themselves and what really matters.
That's true, but I don't want to be like a technocrat of saying like we have to ban soda or something. I'm not going to do that.
Well, both New York did it, and it worked.
Under Cuomo?
Under de Blasio.
Was that good for his popularity?
There were some like memes on the internet, and now everyone's over it. Philly just did it, and now everyone's over it. Nanny state.
It is a nanny state. I'm against that idea. Like my thing is, we have the money, we have the resources where we can generate an economy based on sustainable energy, where we can reduce poverty more than it already is being reduced. We can ensure stable, clean housing for people. I'm not talking. You're making it sound like I'm advocating for like hedonism for everyone. I'm not. I'm advocating for like just basic like we have the resources to give everybody, not just in the United States but globally, if we really wanted. We have the money. We have the energy to do it. We can create a sustainable energy infrastructure that can do that. We can create clean, fast public transportation. We can create a system where basically we can guarantee people a steady amount of like income, or hell, we could get to a system where maybe income doesn't even exist anymore. Like if we get these technologies off the ground. Now that's another question.
You're saying No, I have to say this. What you just said almost. I mean, it didn't take 40 minutes, but it's almost the same as what Fidel Castro said when he said history will absolve me. In 1955, he made these same arguments about Cuba.
But then he killed gay people.
Yeah, because they were counter-revolutionaries.
How are they counter-revolutionary? Like I'm not saying that. I'm not saying history is. I'm not advocating for killing people.
No. He never advocated for killing people. He advocated for the same sort of things, redistributing wealth. No, there's more politics behind the and that doesn't happen.
See, you're over here saying like, oh, centrism and stability, and then you're like all about Castro.
No, I'm just trolling.
I know you are, but like it's not good trolling, Steve, because like Castro totally was on board with killing people.
No. But I said read his speech in 1955. He comes to power in 1959, and the realities change of keeping power. That's when he starts killing people.
Also, he didn't have solar energy.
No, but a lot of his arguments were about there was so much sugar in Cuba, so much tobacco, so much wealth, and
also if you look at the economic blockades the United States still perpetuates on Cuba.
Exactly.
So I would say that like all the bad things in Cuba, Castro has had obviously the most overwhelming effect, but there are other extenuating circumstances.
Do you know the blockade happens right after he comes to power? Yeah. The killing is not as quick as the blockade.
Sure.
Okay.
But still, let's just get some solar energy going and legalize drugs. Come on, man.
I don't think these solutions will work, but I admire your optimism.
Well, what else is the solution?
I say there are no solutions. Has anyone again?
So you're making an argument for just like stasis, but that if we just say stasis, the world is gonna be destroyed by climate change and by war. and we're all going to end up living in like a feudal dystopia soon. Like, if not us, our children or our grandchildren.
Well, yeah, okay.
Like, you're just sort of making an argument like, well, don't do anything because there's nothing you can do. But it's like, but history shows that, like, history is nothing but people doing things.
No. I qualified my stasis. I said the system has to be radically reimagined. It's because we're entrenched in.
Yeah, and I'm the one over here saying what we should be imagining. You're the one who's like, well, we need to be radical and imagine new things. What do you think people on like the left are doing right now?
No, but what I'm saying is it starts with consumption. We should do something to get rid of plastic and find some other some other biodegradable substance. I will never forget, Matthias. One of the first university events I went to was the DRI, the Development Research Institute at NYU. They talk, all these guys in suits at NYU get together, some of the world's foremost economists to talk about poverty in Africa, and they drink the finest wine.
All bullshitters.
They eat the best cheese, and they eat.
This is why Larry Summers is like scum.
You gotta practice what you preach. So that's very good what you're saying, Matthias. I don't ever want to see you with a paper cup from a coffee shop again. You should have a mug. It starts with us.
You're making an argument that like we should all just become like Buddhist monks.
No, I'm saying we should all do our best.
I mean, I'm a vegetarian.
I know.
So I'm trying over here.
And
that is the biggest thing you can do to reduce your carbon footprint.
Not flying, I think is even bigger now.
It's true, but consistent. Something you can do every day for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
Don't eat meat.
I agree. Don't eat meat. Stop buying paper cups. No matter how much you like your coffee in a paper cup, bring a reusable mug.
I mean, those are small things, sure. But like most of the energy that is wasted is not done by individuals. It's like lights left on in buildings. It's by big companies running stuff. You're making this argument of like these tiny individual choices we make will affect change. I'm talking about like, but what about the system in which we are forced to make this choice between cups and this? I'm talking about systematic changes.
Well, but
let's change. Let's not go around and tell individuals, oh, act differently. I want to say, let's change the system that forces individuals to act the way they do. Why do we live in a society where people are always buying things on the go? Why do we live in a society where plastic is so plentiful? Let's not just go around telling people reduce your consumption. Sure, tell that, but we need to ask bigger questions about like, why is the system the way it is in the first place? Let's change that.
Right, and that's what we do every day as historians, and we teach about some of how these systems have come into place. I know next semester I'm teaching Confronting Empire, in which we sort of lay down the roots of how these systems were built.
So we can change them.
Absolutely. I too am an optimist. And I thank you, Matthias, for being good to us and being optimistic. I thank you.
Vote for Cynthia Nixon. That's
listeners,
the moral of this story.
For
individual responsibility comes down to you voting. Vote.
And now he's advocating individual responsibility.
Well, I'm trying to bridges over here, Steve.
All right, I think if
spread our podcast, that's another individual choice you can make to make the world better.
If you are a New Yorker and you want to wreak havoc,
we want to make the economy so abstract that everyone is going to make a living by their own podcast. Everyone is just going to make podcasts that everyone's going to listen to. Everyone's just going to be getting knowledge from each other. It's going to be, the new podcast economy.
Awesome. I'm on board with that. So, with that.
Have a good one, guys. Thanks
for
listening.
History.
Hopefully we didn't piss anyone off too much.
Our world.
Vote Cynthia Nixon.
Anytime.
Anywhere.
Any place.
Any place. Bye.
Andrew Cole.